Why is Quebec consistently Canada's leech? Quebec is getting 13.6 billion in equalization payments. The West Coast, because they're doing so well, they get nothing. They're basically subsidizing this part of Canada here, in particular Quebec.
This video and the common critique of equalization payments, particularly as it relates to Quebec, makes two critical mistakes. First, it seems to ignore the entire historical context behind the current state of equalization payments in Canada. And second, it views equalization payments completely abstracted from the greater federal economic policies behind it too. First, the historical context. In 1957, when the payments were first developed, they were developed as a way to help the poorer provinces, which at the time were the prairie provinces. Then something wild happened in the 60s and 70s, energy prices exploded. This led the government of Canada to massively subsidize the western provinces' oil energy sector. These subsidies were paid for with taxes that mainly came from the heavily populated provinces, Quebec and Ontario. So if the oil-rich western provinces are subsidizing equalization payments today, it's because the population-rich eastern provinces subsidized their development in the first place. Incidentally, at the same time, in the 60s and 70s, Quebec was developing its own hydroelectric energy sector and had to do so almost entirely without federal money. Which is why even today, Quebec's hydroelectric energy sector is largely excluded from the equalization formula. The federal government continues to give very important subsidies to the western provinces' oil sector today, and those subsidies are still paid for largely from the populated provinces, Ontario and Quebec. Which actually brings us to the second point, the greater economic policy context. The dollar value of equalization payments don't account for other forms of economic policy, like subsidies to the western oil sector. That's because equalization payments are meant to be a catch-all redistribution that gives the federal government flexibility to invest in whatever sectors of whatever provinces it chooses. Otherwise, the federal government would have to be careful to only invest in industries that are found in every Canadian province, or carefully balance and pick and choose industries based on which provinces got the last piece of the pie. By having a catch-all redistribution process like equalization payments, the federal government can choose to invest in industry sectors that may end up advantaging certain provinces over others, as it does with the oil sector. So I hope that helps.